Yeah, very short term that you said yes. We just had a quick chat, and then you said, we got a few minutes left. Why not having a short chat here? So thanks for taking the time.
No worries.
Maybe you can give a short intro, and then we can talk about what you guys are doing.
Sure. So I'm Rory, I'm from techUK, and I lead our emerging technologies activity, of which robotics is a core component.
The coolest.
I think so, a bit biased. So essentially we convene the UK's tech sector around particular challenges and opportunities. We promote what our member companies, of which we have just over 1,000, are doing. And we are essentially the voice of the tech sector when talking to government. And I'm really excited about all things robotics, automation, humanoids, which is why I'm here today.
I mean, if you look back, and we talked about this earlier, the Industrial Revolution started here, right? And but over the last decades, things became different, right? What's your approach, and especially if you're carrying this history now, and now trying to dive really into this and focusing solely on that? What's maybe you can give us a little bit of context what you guys are doing.
Sure, yeah, so I think that's a fair point. The UK has a really strong legacy when it comes to the development of technology, and we've usually been an early adopter as well. I think there's a lot of innovation to be seen in universities, particularly in a deep tech sense. The problem we have really is commercializing that innovation. techUK does a lot of bringing the sector together so that the right kind of stakeholders, be that tech companies, universities, VCs, are all talking to each other, having the right sorts of conversations, and crucially are acting upon those conversations in unison. So I think that's key, is that we need to keep pace with other parts of the world, and so we're constantly looking for best practice, but we can't act in isolation, any one particular sector or industry or group of stakeholders.
And how is it, because especially in the tech sector or companies, when we're talking about entrepreneurship, is that hard for you guys to get in contact with companies? Are they skeptical, or are they finally someone who is paying attention to that? How's the feeling?
So we have, having over 1,000 technology companies in our membership means it's very easy for us to talk to not just industry, but senior figures within industry. So that's fine. We do have a challenge when it comes to the adoption of robotic technologies across various industries and sectors in the UK. We're aware of that, and I think that's where upskilling, showing people what's around the corner, and trying to put the foundations in place, be those principles of ethical principles or regulations or policy strategy. So we're with industry as we go through that journey, we navigate that journey together. It varies massively between types of companies or sector, but there's no one-fits-all solution. But there are loads of examples of technology being adopted in different settings that we can take and adapt and learn from, and then use to our advantage.
What I would be interested in, as you just said, there's a vast majority of different use cases, companies, stages. What if you could identify 1, 2, 3 biggest pain points in that adoption or problem of adoption? What would it be?
Sure. So, I mean, it's kind of the usual suspects. So skills, and certain industries have a particular skill shortage that we're looking to overcome through a number of things that we do. One being Tech Skills, which is a sister organisation at techUK that accredits university and other courses, so that tech companies kind of have a say about the content in a tech-related course, which overcomes a bit of the skills gap. So skills is a big one.
Yeah.
Access to finance is one we hear all the time. The UK is very good within Europe, but compared to the US, for example, a big competitor, you find a lot of British companies heading overseas when they reach a certain point, maybe Series A, Series B, and they can no longer scale. So that's something we're very keen to address. We have a lot of work on commercialization, on scale-ups, on SMEs and finance. And then I think a third area is, this is maybe me speaking a bit more personally, but it's around ambition. And I think the companies want to scale, they want to grow, they want to adopt technologies. I do find myself occasionally pushing government to kind of put the foundations, the right building blocks in place so that companies can do just that. I think we need to aim really high when it comes to robotics and AI, but also humanoids, which is why I'm here today. I think we need to have a bit more of a conversation around they're coming. I think that's inevitable, and the UK, I think, should be leading on certain parts of the technology stack or the adoption of them, the design of them, IP, all these kind of issues. are opportunities for us. And I want us to have a bit more of a conversation about what that could mean for the UK.
Being it now not directly on the agenda, it is somewhere on the agenda. But let's come back to topic number 2, the funding part. So do you think this is something that can be not easily solved, but there's a few things that are necessary to address this and to address this on the larger scale? Because if you're looking at charts that compare the tech sector in the US, for example, and Europe, you see it's like very thin. The majority of companies that are generating the biggest revenues, or the biggest companies in Europe, are still not companies that are older than 50 years old, right? Versus the US, where the majority of companies are younger than 50 years old, right? Especially in the tech sector. How is that for you?
So it's a balance, because you want a diverse range of sources of investment. I think on the institutional investment side, the Mansion House reforms or compact is we welcome that, because it brings more money from venture capital or from institutional investors into the kind of venture capital landscape, and that is particularly beneficial for tech. So that's great. On the non-institutional side, I point to the work of ARIA, the Advanced Research and Invention Agency. So Jenny Reed, who leads their robot dexterity, I know you've spoken to her.
Yeah, yes it is, yes.
She's on the panel with myself later, and they're doing some amazing work. So that one program on improving the hardware behind robotics, essentially, which they argue hasn't progressed since the 50s or 60s, a huge opportunity space, is backed by £57 million of funding. And so that plugs quite a gap, I'd say, in the kind of the wider investment landscape, where we can take big, bold risks, use our strengths in cutting-edge research, and hopefully commercialise and apply that at scale to benefit, industry sectors across the UK.
I mean, we do have to address that this is like not the first steps, but tiny steps or small steps.
Yep.
Let's not call them tiny, but because the number you just said versus some humanoid companies that almost like 10 times just raised money for one single company, versus this is a fund that needs to be funding a lot of projects. Do you think this is something that when the topic becomes higher in the hierarchy of because there's a lot of things that governments are facing it, do you think this is something that we might have the possibility to really put this into the focus, so we can be a bit better here sooner?
You mean around scale, achieving scale?
Yeah.
So that's what the panel is on, that I'm speaking on later, is how do we achieve, or do we achieve that scale? I think it's important to recognise where the UK's comparative advantages are in these technologies, and so we shouldn't seek to emulate the Teslas and the Figures just because we can or we'd like to. There has to be a kind of purpose. We'll start with the why, and I would say that our comparative advantages are not in manufacturing at scale or at volume in a way that you would turn to Asia typically to do so. It's in things like copyright and IP, which often comes straight out of universities. Design, so in semiconductors, for instance, we don't produce the largest fabs. We design high-end semiconductors or produce compound semiconductors that are a bit more niche in application. So carving out the niche for the UK is important, but then backing it through government strategy, funding, political leadership is also really important. So we shouldn't try and be the best at everything. And I think that's a problem that maybe we've kind of encountered in the past. And I think this government gets that. What I'd be keen to see is for them to be talking, and us all to be talking as a sector, more about the potential challenges and opportunities of humanoid robots, and then commit with those kind of various things I just mentioned.
Yeah, looking forward to the panel that you guys have later on. I might have the opportunity to have a look at it. But yeah, I'm very happy that you squeeze in some time for some questions. And afterwards we will share the interview, but we will also share some links so people can have a look at what you guys are doing in depth.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm just saying thanks and looking forward to see how the UK and Europe in general will be doing a better job in the future when it comes to enabling tech, right, on different kind of levels.
Absolutely, yeah, so am I. It's an exciting time.
Thanks.
Thank you.